So these Dallas Mavericks absolutely destroyed the Denver Nuggets today. It was a blowout, and although the game is going on right now, I'm probably going to be making a video before the game ends so I can kind of just get it out of the way. But yeah, we're here with the Mavericks and the Nuggets recap video. So if you like what you see, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate it. And we'll get into the box score first of all before I get into my thoughts. But yeah, we're looking at the box score right now. Luka Doncic, 33 points. 12 rebounds, 11 assists, 1 steal in 35 minutes. Spencer Dinwiddie with 15 points and 2 rebounds, 1 assist and 1 steal. Dwight Powell, 5 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. Reggie Bullock with 10 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. And then finally, Dorian Finney-Smith with 6 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal. Now, off the bench, we have 2 guys I want to talk about. Christian Wood with 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 1 assist. Very great game from Christian Wood. We'll talk about him later. And Tim Hardaway Jr. with 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. So we'll get into my thoughts on the game overall. So we'll talk about Luka first and foremost. He was putting in the work offensively on the Nuggets. And with the Nuggets team without Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, it was great to see Luka Doncic take over the game and be the leader that the Mavericks needed, because without Luka, I mean, they have guys like C. Wood and Spencer Dinwiddie, but they're not guys that are going to be taking over the game. So having Luka there being the guy taking over on offense is definitely a great sight to see. And whenever I watch Mavericks games, I mean, I'm always excited to watch Luka always play on offense. So that was a great game from Luka. He was putting in the work in the post, especially because guys like Bones Highland was guarding him, and Luka was able to read the mismatch and took advantage of it in the post. So great game from Luka. Had a lot of great pump fakes, a lot of good up and under moves on Bones Highland. A guy, I think Luka's like 6'5", I want to say, 6'7", 230 pounds. I mean, Bones Highland, we'll look at how his body frame is, but judging from, the mismatches today, Bones Highland cannot handle Luka Doncic in the post. It was just a lot of great up and unders, a lot of great pump fakes, a lot of just great footwork moves from Luka Doncic. 6'2", 169 pounds from Bones Highland. I mean, comparing that to 6'7", 230 pounds, who's going to win that? So great job from Luka Doncic creating the mismatch, going into the post, working in on the low block. His 3-ball wasn't really falling today. I mean, if you look at his shooting splits from the game overall, shot 2 of 7 from 3. Not the greatest shooting night from 3 for Luka, but he found ways to impact the game that wasn't 3-point shooting. I mean, he shot 11 of 22 from the field and only had 2 turnovers in the whole game. And his assist ratio, or assist to turnover ratio, I mean, he had 11 assists and 2 turnovers, which is pretty great. Overall, had a box score of plus 25 overall. So I think Luka Doncic, I don't know, he played very well today. Now, the Nuggets, I mean, they are still a respectable team. They're being 9-5 over the season, but, I mean, they're still a great team. They still have MPJ, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, although those 2 guys didn't play. The Nuggets team is still a very respectable team, and I think Luka Doncic being able to take over the game, being that leader, like I said, is definitely something great, and what the Mavericks needed this game too. So, Luka, he was also able to find open teammates easily this game. There was a lot of times where guys like Spencer Dinwiddie and Christian Wood were open in the corners, and really the reason for that is because Luka, he creates a lot of gravity to the point where guys like those 2 guys, Wood and Spencer Dinwiddie, those guys are going to be open in the corners, and it's going to be easy money for them in the corner. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie, we'll talk about him. I mean, I think he's like a 41% 3-point shooter over the season. Christian Wood, even though he's off the bench, he's still a guy that's going to be impacting the Mavericks offense, and over the season, he's shooting 43% from 3. So those are some great stat lines from Christian Wood and Spencer Dinwiddie tonight. I mean, Christian Wood 28 and 8. Spencer Dinwiddie had like 15, I think. I don't know, those guys together, I'll get into it later, but I think those 2 guys have potential to become, that type of star besides Luka. So we'll look into some other things. I mean, Luka, I think early in the first, he had like a no-look pass to Christian Wood in the first for a corner 3. It was great because I think Luka, he went in with like a Euro step. He did a no-look pass to the right corner for Christian Wood, and then Christian Wood was able to knock down the corner 3. So I would like Jason Kidd to run more pick and roll sets for Luka Doncic and Christian Wood. I think tonight especially it worked very well. Now, with guys like DeAndre Jordan, and I can't remember who was playing center for the Nuggets tonight. If I look at the box score, I think, DeAndre Jordan was playing center for a majority of the game, but he was getting crucified by Christian Wood. But regardless, I mean, running the pick and roll set for Luka and Christian Wood, I think could definitely be very effective in their offense. I mean, Luka, he's able to run the pick and roll very well, and Christian Wood being one of the best pick and roll lob threats in the league. In my opinion, I think he's one of the best pick and pop and pick and roll bigs in the league. I think it's going to be working very well in their offense, especially with Luka creating gravity. It's going to be very easy for him to create a lot of open looks for guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock, and then, having Christian Wood in the pick and roll set. It gives him another guy to worry about on the defensive end, in terms of for the Nuggets. So I think running more pick and roll sets for Luka and Wood would definitely be helping their offense a lot more. But at the same time, I mean, Christian Wood comes off the bench. They're going to stagger their minutes. Luka and Christian Wood, they're not going to be running some minutes together, but I think they should be running the pick and roll a lot more than I think they should be this season. So defensively, Luka this game, he's taking strides to become a better perimeter defender. This game, especially against Bones Highland, he was definitely a pretty great defender on the floor for the Mavericks. I mean, defensively, the Mavericks today were pretty great. I think they could have been a lot better, obviously. Guys like Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith were pretty great defensively, but I mean, Christian Wood, he's a below-average defender. Guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, I think he's like a pretty decent defender, and Luka Doncic, he's more of like an above-average defender. But regardless, the defense today overall was pretty great. Finally, I think Luka Doncic, he's making strides, and he's definitely improving each game. I think I saw this stat line during the game. Each and every season he's played in the NBA, this is the season where he's averaged the most amount of free throws attempted. I think last season was around like 7 free throws attempted. Now it is around like 11. So honestly, Luka Doncic, he's getting to the cup a lot more. He's trying to get more fouls called, and he's trying to make more plays for himself. And I think that's great for him to be able to create these type of scenarios where he's going to be fouled going into the cup and potentially getting even an N1. So great game from Luka Doncic. That's my take on Luka Doncic this game. We'll get into Christian Wood here. So he came off the bench as usual, always. I mean, Jason Kidd is going to be having this guy off the bench for, I would say, majority of the season. I think they could definitely experiment with him in the starting lineup in the second half of the season, maybe after the All-Star break, depending on what happens. Honestly, I think Dwight Powell starting over him is just absolutely ridiculous. There's just like no point in starting Dwight Powell over Christian Wood. Even guys like JaVale McGee, I think he was starting over Christian Wood to start out the season, which definitely isn't fine with me. I mean, JaVale McGee obviously is a better defender in the interior, but Christian Wood offensively JaVale McGee can't even hold the candle to in terms of offensive ability. So Christian Wood should definitely get his start pretty soon here. I still would like to bring Christian Wood off the bench for some games. It gives their bench depth a lot more offensive ability, because looking at their bench, I mean, THJ came off the bench today, Tim Hardaway Jr. had 13 points, so Christian Wood having 28 points off the bench could definitely jumpstart their offense off the bench too. I think what this team really needs, and I'll get into this later too, but I think they need a solid backup point guard. They only have 3 solid guys off the bench: JaVale McGee, Christian Wood, and Tim Hardaway Jr. Outside of that, I mean, Josh Green, he's okay, but he's not a guy that's going to be scoring or affecting the game on the offensive glass, especially offensively today. I mean, he only scored 5 points today on 2 or 3 from the field. I think they need a guy that's going to score off the bench for them, especially a guy like I wouldn't say Lou Williams, because that's really the one guy that comes into mind. I think they just need a solid point guard off the bench, any guy that could at least put up some stats, and I think this team should be okay at least. Now, if they can get some more defensive-minded guys off the bench, I think we're talking about maybe a better Mavericks team compared to last year, but nothing's guaranteed. I think Robert Covington would be more of a better suited trade target for this team, but that's my take on that. But basically, I think Christian Wood should get his start here pretty soon. So looking at some other things here, I think Wood could be that viable second option next to Luka if they insert him into the starting lineup. This game especially, the amount of scoring output that Christian Wood provided today was absolutely amazing. Granted, DeAndre Jordan was the guy defending Christian Wood, and I think for a majority of the games, he might have some guys like Clint Capella, Joel Embiid, guarding Christian Wood. But I think, I don't know, Christian Wood, his offensive ability, it makes me believe that he can be that second option next to Luka, as he was very electric this game. Now, obviously, I think Jason Kidd is just going to bring him off the bench. There's just no way around it. I hope they really do try to experiment him going into the starting lineup, but there's just no proven or no guaranteed chance that he's going to get that start. So, I don't know. Christian Wood, he could definitely be that second option next to Luka. Maybe it's Spencer Dinwiddie. I'll always believe it's Christian Wood because, he's coming from Houston, and obviously I'm a Houston Rockets fan. But Christian Wood, I think he could definitely be that viable second option next to Luka. So the Luka and Christian Wood connection today was very amazing. The amount of pick and rolls and the amount of passes Luka was able to get to Christian Wood today was great. He was able to find Christian Wood open basically anywhere on the court, and that's what led to Christian Wood having a pretty great game off the bench. I think moving forward, if this is what's happening between Christian Wood and Luka Doncic, I think we're talking about maybe one of the best pick and roll duos we've seen in the league this year. So I think Christian Wood, hopefully he gets his start this season. I'm really banking on him starting some games and maybe starting some games off the bench. We'll see. I'm just really hoping that he finally gets his chance in Jason Kidd's lineup. So we'll talk about Spencer Dinwiddie here really quickly, because I think he was pretty great today too. He's taking a huge leap in almost every category of his game from the season. I think his three-point percentage is definitely the biggest thing that stands out to me. Looking at his shooting splits over the season, 46% from the field and around 41% from three. Definitely a lot better stats from, compared to last season. I mean, he played 23 games with Dallas last season, shot around 40% from the three last season, and shot around 50% from the field, and only 23 games played, so it's a pretty small sample size. But in 14 games played this season, I mean, 46% from the field and around 41% from three is definitely great to see. And I think Spencer Dinwiddie could also be that second guy next to Luka Doncic, like I said, because I think his scoring output and his scoring ability can definitely help this Mavericks team. When Luka's off the floor, I think Spencer Dinwiddie is going to be that guy probing the offense and just running, the plays and having that pick and roll set for Christian Wood. I think Spencer Dinwiddie could be that next playmaker next to Luka. Over the season, he's actually averaging around 5 assists per game. This game especially, I think he had only one assist this game, but he wasn't really playing that much of a dominant ball handler player today, because obviously Luka was playing, majority of the game. He played 35 minutes. Spencer Dinwiddie played 26. And I think the pick and roll between Spencer Dinwiddie and Christian Wood is going to be something they run a lot. So I think for the role players this season, THJ, Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to be their X factor. This game, he had 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists, 1 steal and 1 block. He's a guy that either can get really hot or it can be really cold some games. I mean, we saw that last game against Houston. He had 28 points, and in this game, he only had 13. So it really depends on which team he's versing. But whenever Tim Hardaway Jr. is hot, I mean, he's going to be knocking down threes. Whenever he's cold, he's going to be subbed out pretty quickly here. So I think, he's going to be a guy that we either bring in to get hot, or if he's not hot, he's going to be sitting down for probably the rest of the game. So I think THJ is definitely their X factor. Now, Josh Green, I think he's one of their highest energy players off the bench. This game, 5 points, 3 assists, and 1 rebound. He was on the glass today. He had an amazing offensive rebound. I think it was he slapped it out to I think it was Dinwiddie or something. Dinwiddie or Dorian Finney-Smith, I can't remember, but his high energy is something that this Mavericks team needs off the bench, and I think pairing that alongside a good point guard is definitely going to be helping him in the long run. Now, in terms of his three-point shooting and his offensive ability, he had a good N1 today. His driving ability is actually not that bad, his athleticism, but I definitely would like to see him improve his three ball a little bit more, his shooting ability. But in terms of his high energy off the bench, I definitely like it for this Mavericks team. It gives them new life off the bench, and they could potentially pair him with a good point guard off the bench if they decide to trade for one this season. So I think Josh Green is definitely one of their most valuable players off the bench, defensively. So in terms of Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock, they were great defensively this game. Offensively, I would like some more production. Reggie Bullock, he's going to be a guy that's going to be very streaky. He went 2 of 5 from the 3. Dorian Finney-Smith went 1 of 4. I think both these guys are very streaky three-point shooters, but when they're hot, I wouldn't say they're one of the best three-point shooters in the league, but they're definitely above average. They're good 3-and-D players, but I think guys like Robert Covington, who's a proven 3-and-D guy, could definitely help out this team a lot more than Reggie Bullock, because I think, Reggie Bullock, he's been a very inconsistent starter for this team, and replacing him with a guy like Robert Covington, who's a good perimeter defender, who's a great help defender, someone that can block shots, someone that can hit the occasional three-pointer. I think Robert Covington would be an absolutely great system match for this team. So looking at some other things here, they need Reggie Bullock gone. JaVale McGee, I would also say, is one of their worst assets on their team. I think they signed him to a 2-year or a 3-year deal. I can't remember which one, but JaVale's I think he's around 33, 35, 34. Yeah, JaVale McGee's 34, and that, I don't know, that contract is just not good for a guy that's 34 and only playing 7 minutes or around 17 minutes per game. So I don't know. JaVale McGee, he's definitely interesting. He gives them some good interior presence, some good interior defense, but outside of that, isn't really great offensively. So, finally, they need to pick up a backup point guard. Like I said in this video, they just need a guy that can fill in that backup point guard spot and bring in a guy that can do Bullock's job better. So, a backup point guard and maybe a guy like a Robert Covington would be great for this team. So, overall thoughts, this team especially, they're capable of scoring very high each game, depending on if their players are hot. You know, if it's only Luka that's hot, Luka and Christian Wood, I mean, this team's probably only going to be scoring like 90 to 100 points. This game especially, they shot, what? If you look at their overall team shots, they shot 46 to 77 from the field, so they shot around 60% from the field, compared to the Nuggets 38 of 90, which was 42%. So they had a total points of 127 points. So if they can keep this up, I think they're going to be one of the highest scoring teams in the league. But obviously with Luka and Christian Wood and, you know, how inconsistent their role players are, you know, you can pretty much judge it off from that. So defensively, this team is very respectable. They got a lot of respectable defenders. Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock, JaVale McGee. Christian Wood can be respectable at sometimes. Luka Doncic can be sometimes. But overall, they're a pretty respectable team defensively. Luka, top 3 in the MVP. Maybe the guy for the MVP award because he's been absolutely amazing this season. I mean, we'll go into depth in a separate video about Luka Doncic, but you know, he's been basically a top 3 guy for the MVP award this season. Christian Wood should be a throw-in for the 6th Man of the Year award if he continues to come off the bench. Now, if he does start, like I said, I think he's going to be probably one of the best pick and roll, pick and pop lob threats, or easily one of the pick and pop bigs in the league that I've seen this season so far. So finally, have sets ready for Christian Wood to run on the ball as well, because I think running Christian Wood on the ball would definitely help their offense a lot more, because I think creating that mismatch between Christian Wood and a point guard, or just having Christian Wood run the pick and roll, I think it'd definitely be pretty interesting. Now, I can't say that he's going to be running it very well, but I think being on ball and having that ability to handle the ball could definitely make some unique runs for the Mavericks offense. So that's pretty much the end of the video. You guys can let me know your thoughts about the Dallas Mavericks. I definitely think they're going to go pretty far this season, depending on if Luka Doncic and Christian Wood can keep up this high level of play. So that's the video. My name is JDC, and all peace.